British Science Week. Thank you to everyone at home for joining us, and those of you who are back in school. We are joined by two guests today who work in the fields of science and technology, engineering and maths, and they're going to tell you all about their career journey, what their job is like, how they got there, and everything in between. So thank you, Billie and Isabelle, for joining us. Billie, would you like to start by telling us where you work? And I'll say before we start, for people at home to be aware that this is being recorded, your microphones and cameras are off, but please do ask Billie and Isabelle any questions in the chat function. So over to you, Billie, if you'd like to introduce yourself and where you work.
Hi everyone, I'm Billie Santos and I'm a graduate engineer for Tilbury Douglas. At the moment I'm working up in Hexham in Northumberland on the A69 Bridge End project.
Thank you, Billie. That's a pretty big job, I know from experience over there. Thank you. And Isabelle, could you introduce yourself, please, and where you work?
Yeah, so my name is Isabelle Patterson. I'm a bioanalyst at Arcinova, which is in the northeast of England in Annie.
Thank you both for joining us. So we might have some people viewing at home who have heard of a bioanalyst and have heard of a civil and a structural engineer. But Billie, can you tell us, could you sum up your job is?
I'd say the main aspect of my job is called setting out, which is basically marking out either location, the profile, the height, or the design of any element of works on site.
Oh, brilliant, thank you. So do you get to work outside a lot then?
Yeah, I'd say probably 90% of my day is spent outdoors, and then just sort of in the office doing only a little bit of paperwork.
Really? All right. Okay, thank you. And Isabelle, what is a bioanalyst?
So a bioanalyst, if you Google the definition, it would say that we quantify xenobiotics. So, but in layman's terms, it's basically we test new drugs that aren't on the market yet that have been given to patients. We then take samples from patients. This can be blood samples, it can be things they've eaten, it can be sometimes it's poop as well, which isn't nice. But we analyse that via elemental analysis. So we break it down to its basic elements, such as like copper or iron, and we basically make it into numbers and give it back to the client to help these drugs get onto market.
Okay, so your company is developing new drugs, new treatments.
We don't develop them, we help develop. We don't create, but we help develop and get into market. Yeah.
Oh wow, thank you. And Billie, you mentioned the site that you were working on, that you were constructing. Does the company just work locally, or is it a bigger company?
No, Tilbury Douglas work nationwide. I believe they do have some input with some jobs abroad as well. But we do have regional offices up and down the country, and then from there they work locally, sort of within their district.
Okay, thank you. And let's think back to when you were at school. Did you know that you wanted to be an engineer, Billie?
Helpful. I'm trying to find the chat.
Oh, definitely not. I basically just sort of got into this role from what I was good at school, and sort of how the subjects steered me towards that career. I definitely didn't know I wanted to be an engineer, sort of before school and before A-levels, no way.
Okay, and what changed at A-level that made you want to do an engineering degree?
I think just after I'd done the sort of research around the subjects and what that could lead me into, I found out that engineering was directly related to maths for the maths and physics. And then from that, a bit more research, I found civil and structural engineering was sort of high up on the list for me, mainly just because you can be creative with it. You can go into design and work in consulting, or you can be hands-on and actually build it on site. And then if you sort of look at the companies more specifically, and see the massive projects that they build abroad, it just seemed like quite a big opportunity.
It certainly sounds like it, yes. And can you tell me, please, the difference between a civil engineer and a structural engineer?
So civil.
I think Billie may have frozen there, so we'll go to Isabelle if that's okay, and then Billie will join us again. Isabelle, think back to your time in school. Did you know what you wanted to do?
So I didn't know it specifically, but I always loved science. So it's what I did best in, and I always loved sort of chopping up parts and we get the organs in, and I always really loved getting my hands dirty in science. And I just, like Billie, just sort of pursued what I enjoyed, and then later on, you became more specific when I went to university.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And what is a day in the life of a bioanalyst like?
I come into work. We have a desk, so I spend about 20% of my time at the desk, about 80% of the time in the labs. Wearing the PPE, the white coat and goggles. I'm experimenting and using the machines called mass spectrometers that analyze all the samples for us. We do have really cold freezers in the lab, so like some go down to -80 because these samples we have to make sure they're stored properly. Just.
That sounds quite varied then. Quite varied. Yeah, thank you. And what do you love most about your job?
I love the people. I think, especially in science, in my experience, I've always been fortunate to have really nice people around me. And it is like a family here at Arcinova. We all look out for each other. We're always having team meetings to make sure that everyone's doing okay, because obviously, your mental health is very important with work and your well-being. So my favourite thing about Arcinova is definitely the people here.
That's so great to hear. That's so great to hear. Thank you. And I've been fortunate enough to talk to you before, Isabelle, to hear about your journey from school to where you are now. But can you share with the people at home a bit about that story, about when things got difficult?
Yeah, so at my primary school, I'll start there. I was always in the bottom sets. I used to go to dyslexic classes. Then I went on to my secondary school. I was always in, very like the lower sets, but I always tried hard. And at college, especially, I think that's where you can make up for lost time, and hard effort sort of starts kicking in. So I had always been put in this like bottom category of academia, and I worked hard. I went to university. I got the AAC at college level, and then I got a first class degree, which is the highest level that you can get graded. And I got a placement year, which is also really, really good. They love experience, especially in the scientific community. And then I pretty much walked into this job, fortunately, because of the hard work that I had put in. It wasn't going out socializing all the time. It was definitely getting my head down and just making sure that I knew how much work I had to do to get the grades that I wanted, because everyone's different. Some people don't have to do as much work. Some people have to do more, and that's just life. And that's okay. So I'm one of these people that has to do more work, and it's obviously paid off. So if I can do it, I think anyone watching this could also do it and get that amazing, top class degree at university.
That's really inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. So you didn't give up and you persevered and worked hard and got where you are now. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us. So what would you say to a young person who is either just going back to school today, perhaps, or still at home, and they're wondering about pursuing a career in science and technology? Is it going to be a big area? Are there going to be lots of jobs?
There are actually a lot of jobs opening up in the scientific field. I've noticed, especially in this past year, that science has been doing quite well. Obviously, in the private sector, it's one of the few areas. And we're also looking, there's a lot more focus now on getting women into science, because there is an imbalance. I mean, at Arcinova in my office is pretty 50-50 with gender, but they're really looking forward getting more women into science. And that's obviously what this is, with the STEM work. So, yeah.
Thank you. And you talked about the people at Arcinova are great, and you talked about some of the samples and the analysis that you do. Can you describe, please, for the people at home, what your lab's like and how you actually do that?
Okay, so we have the department I work in, not my department, it's called Bioanalytical Services, and we have biological labs. So it's all white. Everything's very clean. Everything has to be basically, we have to prevent contamination because someone will be analysing blood. Sometimes we can get brains in. So, you know, we get a big mixture of like all sorts of like biological samples in to analyse. I mean, you would come in. Sometimes we have to digest things in acid. So you know, you always got to wear your protective goggles and your you've got lab coat and shoes, because if you spill this acid, I've actually seen it on a peer. He spilled this acid on his hands and it scarred him within seconds. So you've always got to be really careful in the labs. What else do we have? We've got all sorts in the labs. We've got really fishy, stinky chemicals. We've got eggy chemicals. We've got stuff like that. Really, I kind of love it. Really, I like coming to work, and we always have lots of test tubes as well. We actually use plastic test tubes called polypropylene, so it's just very clean basically, because we're measuring it's the nanogram, so that's 1,000 milligrams, and then 1,000 milligrams is a gram. So you can imagine all those zeros. We need to make sure that everything's super clean, so we're obviously using very good, you know, top of the line equipment.
That sounds fascinating. Thank you very much. I think Billie may be back, but not on camera. Billie, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's on my camera.
Thanks for coming back to us. We've been hearing about the journey from school to university or apprenticeship into work, and you were talking about how you loved maths and physics, and engineering looked like you could apply those subjects. Did it ever get hard? And if so, what did you do?
Oh, definitely. I mean, especially getting to at the university level. I definitely had those days where I thought, you know, can I even do this? I mean, should I just try something else completely? Maybe something a bit easier, you know, because it is a difficult degree to do and a difficult industry to get into. But I think you just got to remind yourself that the things you've done up to that point have meant that you should be there. I mean, you're qualified to be there. You might be competent to be there. And I think it's just reminding yourself of that. And especially at uni, for me, it was like the method of teaching just didn't agree with me. And I think you just got to find what works for you, really, and stick with that.
That's interesting. Isabelle was talking about doing her placement as well, alongside the degree. So, Billie, what was your degree title?
It was civil and structural engineering. So that was a dual course. And I also did it with an integrated master's. So that meant that before I applied to uni, I made the decision to sign up for the 4 years then. And then when I graduated, I could go into either civil or structural engineering. Oh,
so the options are open. Great.
Yeah, so it's recognised by both the ICE and the iStructi.
Excellent. And did you say you were a graduate engineer? So was this your first role, or did you have experience elsewhere?
Yeah, so I'm a graduate engineer. My company has a 3-year graduate programme. So this being my first job outside of uni. So from September 2019, this is my first full-time job. But previous to that, I've done a couple of summer placements with them. So like in between my years at uni, we went for 12 and 15 weeks. But that sort of depends on whatever your availability is. If you only want to do a couple of months, you know, they can cater for that as well. So I did 2 summer placements, one in the Templeborough biomass plant in Rotherham, and then on a residential project in Leeds.
Wow. And how did you find out about those placements?
Well, to be honest, when you're at uni, it's quite a done thing. You know, a lot of people go on summer placements because as Isabelle was saying, it's all about the experience when you get to this sort of level, and people appreciate the experience a lot more than maybe your academic qualification. But I was fortunate again in that my university, the University of Sheffield, has like a partnership program running with quite a few sort of engineering firms. and so it makes it a lot easier to apply for placements. And like the companies will come and do the interviews at your university rather than, you know, having to travel to London or anything if you were looking to sort of go down south.
That's brilliant. That's great. Thank you. Really reassuring to know that there's those partnerships between businesses and education. So you've talked about travel there. Are there opportunities for travel in your work, Billie?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's basically when you sort of get into a company, they will ask you if you want to travel or not. So as you can imagine, construction jobs sort of pop up and down the country. And if your company that you're working for, has a part on that project, they might ask you if you want to travel, and that could be anywhere within the country. Like I say, it could be abroad, depending on your company. But that's sort of a personal choice on whether you're willing to travel or you want to travel.
Okay, right. So it could be anywhere, absolutely anywhere that you'd like.
Yeah.
And Isabelle, how about in your area of work? Are there opportunities for travel?
I would say not so much in my experience. It's quite fixed. So you'd come to work, you'd work on the site because you need the labs, you need the tools, you need the equipment. But I mean, at Arcinova, it's quite flexible. So because we do experiments and the type of work you do isn't, you know, it's not quite what Billie does. We work flexible hours, so I can start work anytime between like 7 and like 9:30, and then I get to leave as early as 3:30 or stay late as I want, really. So I really enjoy that about science, and I think that's quite prevalent in the, yeah.
That sounds great.
That's great.
Excellent, thank you. We've had a question, Isabelle. What was the title of your degree, please?
The title of my degree was biotechnology. So for those that don't know, it's molecular biology.
Okay, thank you. And where did you do that?
I did that at Northumbria University.
At Northumbria. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And we've had a question as well about further maths A level. I think, Billie, did you say that you had done further maths?
I did, yeah.
Okay, and has that helped you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, especially if you're looking to take it at A level, it does help if you do have maths and physics. But as I figured out sort of at the time, as a trio, they work really well. There's a lot of overlap between the curriculum, you know, so you might do something in maths in the morning, it'll help you in further maths in the afternoon.
Oh, right. Smart move. That's great.
Yeah.
And thinking about the subjects that you did in the classroom, how much of the maths and the physics and the technology do you use in your work?
I'd say on a day-to-day basis, more of the tech than sort of the fundamental maths and physics. You know, I think a lot of my role now is dependent on the technology and sort of the equipment that we use on site. But even in saying that, you know, when things go wrong, you have to refer back to the fundamentals and the basic maths and physics that you've learned.
All right. Okay. So can you tell me a bit more about the technology and the equipment that you use on site for people at home who haven't driven past your site?
Oh, yeah. So as an engineer, you'll use what's called a total station, which is sort of a machine that you can put all your data into off the drawings, and you set that up on site so that it knows where it is. And as an individual working on your own, you'll be able to pretty much cover all of your job just with that one instrument. And then, but we also use like GPS on staffs to tell you where you are on site. We also do drone surveys of the site. So we don't actually have the drones ourselves, but we employ an agency firm, and they come and do drone flyovers, which I think is quite cool, and that's becoming a massive thing now. So if you were interested in drones and sort of that sort of photography, if you like, that is becoming a massive thing in construction now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are there a lot of jobs in construction for people who are thinking that they might be interested but would really like a job? So are there jobs available?
Oh, definitely. I mean, even if you just look now with the the big rail job coming up at HS2, you know, they employ thousands and thousands of people. But I think even if you just have a sort of a walk around the city centre, you know, if you're in Newcastle or Durham, if you walk around the town centre, and you'll see some sort of construction work going on pretty much everywhere you look. Granted, a lot of that might be in building if it's in the city centre, but there's just different companies, and there'll be jobs wherever you go, I think, really.
All right. Okay. So both are really good fields to go into, that they're going to be lots of career opportunities. Okay, thank you. So Isabelle and Billie, actually, you've both said that the people you work with are really, really great, and that is one of the best things about your job. So what is it, Isabelle, about the job itself that really gives you a kick?
So I volunteered not only for like the STEM activities like this, but I'm also a better health at work advocate, which means that I help we have like meetings and things, and I've even spoken at what we call the town hall, which is kind of like our presentation or assembly, which might be a bit more familiar. We have it like, you know, every couple of weeks, and I was able to present to that, and there's a lot of opportunities at Arcinova, and it's always growing, you know, we're always hiring. And when I presented at the town hall, I was able to sort of rub shoulders with the CEO and the COO, and it was just nice to see that everyone here is just like a person, and everyone's lovely, and there's just so much opportunities for growth here and to develop yourself. And I feel like I've become who I am today because of this place. Yeah.
Oh wow, thank you for that. And Billie, you have mentioned that that you liked applying the maths and the science and the technology, and you work with great people. What is it about being an engineer then that you really love?
Well, I love just seeing the things get built, really. You know, I love taking what we've been given on paper and actually having a part in building it on site.
Well, that's amazing, thank you. And what advice, Billie, would you give your 15-year-old self?
I think definitely just don't be afraid to try something new, because even now, you know, it's not the be all and end all. If you did try out sort of something in STEM and it wasn't for you, there's always just like a chance to try something different. It's never too late. So I think, yeah, to 15-year-old me would just be to just go for it and give it a go, and there's always going to be a chance to do something else if it's not quite right.
That's great advice, thank you. And Isabelle, over to you.
I don't think I can top that. That was cracking advice. Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't. I'd just say keep doing what you're doing. Fight for that placement year, because that really helped me get other placements and get more experience. Even if it's like free work, you know, free labour, you might think, oh God, I can't be bothered. But at the end of the day, you're working towards that future. You're working towards that house or that nice car you want, or those holidays and those shopping trips. You've got to put the work in, and you know, you start at the bottom, and that's how you get to the top. So I would say to myself, keep doing what you're doing and fight for that placement year and work hard.
Thank you for that. And in your journey from school through to where you are now, what people have helped you? Have you had people that have supported you along the way?
Me or Billie first?
Isabelle.
Yeah, so I would say my dad. He's an electrician, so we're very, very different, but he always worked really hard. I loved his work ethic. You know, he'd get up at like 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning and go off to work and really graft. And he's gotten to where he is today with, you know, like I said, the nice house, and he's done really well for himself. And I always like inspired to sort of have that work ethic. And I think, you know, you get there with them. Like I said, offering like free experience, and even if it's the bad jobs, like, you know, get in there. I have another one would be my biology teacher at college, who's called Dr. Millington, and she was very inspirational to me. She managed to have 2 kids. She did her master's, her PhD, and then she decided she didn't want to do research, and she became a college teacher. And I just think, wow, like if that woman can do all those things, you know, why can't I? You know, if you see someone else doing it, then you can do it too. You just got to put that work in.
Absolutely, that's brilliant advice. And Billie, have colleagues or tutors helped you along the way?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, especially at uni, you have a lot of different mentors. Sort of, whether it's in your course base or with like a specific area that you've gone into. And a lot of those people are ex-engineers, so they've worked in the industry for a good few decades, some of them, you know, and them just being able to share their experience with you in a teaching format that was quite inspiring, definitely.
Great, thank you. And Billie, what's next for you? What is your aspiration in your career?
So over the next sort of 3 to 5 years or so, I'll be working towards my chartership, which is, for me now, would be in civil engineering, so with the Institute of Civil Engineers. But that is a long time coming, you know. Some people do it over the whole career span, you know. Some people get it done in a couple of years, but it really depends on on your work ethic and what you want to get out of it. So what jobs you're working on and how much experience you can actually get, because the chartership is an experience-based sort of achievement. However, there is a formal review at the end where you'll have an exam or an interview sort of thing.
Right, so that you've just answered my question there about what being chartered is. Thank you for that. And Isabelle, I've had a question for you. If you could do it all over again, would you choose the same path or would you do something else?
Yes, I would definitely choose the same path because I love biology. I'm lucky enough that I'm one of these people that found what I enjoy by going on YouTube. I used to watch going on YouTube and watching science shows or understanding biology or David Attenborough. You know, all those things are sort of a branch of biology. So I would not change it. I loved my degree, even though it was blood, sweat, and tears. But it was what I wanted to do, and I'm grateful that I chose that path. So we'll do it again.
And Billie, you said that at times you wondered whether you were doing the right thing. Did you ever consider any other subjects?
I did consider just doing pure maths at one point, just because I thought it might be a bit more open, sort of your choice for jobs at the end, you know, without sort of being specific to a certain occupation at the end of the degree. Yeah, it was definitely considered, but then I sort of saw a few of my friends who did pure maths, and that for me looked incredibly difficult. So I thought no.
So you wouldn't change what you've done then? You're happy with the engineering?
No. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy, I'd say, with my occupation and the industry now. But I think for me, I would definitely, I would have wished to have done it through an apprenticeship. Sort of, I feel like it'd be more beneficial for me and my role at the moment.
That's fascinating. So yes, we should highlight that routes into engineering and a lot of STEM careers. There's the university degree route, and there's also the apprenticeship. And unfortunately, we are running out of time now. I'd love to talk about that a little bit more. We've had one final question, which is a challenge for both of you. If you could summarize your journey in one word, what would it be?
Growth.
Growth. I like that, Isabelle. Thank you. Thanks.
Oh my God. Challenging, definitely.
Challenging. Oh, well, both very, very inspirational stories there, and great notes to end on. So unfortunately, we don't have any more time. We are having more questions coming in, but we'll try and answer them on our social media. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Isabelle and Billie for joining us on International Women's Day and British Science Week. I know I found this fascinating, and I'm sure the people at home have learned a lot and been inspired by your career insights. So many, many thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
See you
Thank
again
you.
soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.